watching FRCD on CAN TV. Family Resource Center on Disabilities is the Region 1 Parent Training and Information Center of Illinois. You can reach us at 312-939-3513 or email us at info@frcd.org. We encourage you to visit our website at www.frcd.org and follow us on Twitter at FRCDPTI. You can subscribe to our YouTube page at FRCD1231, and you can check us out on Facebook. Family Resource Center on Disabilities is not a law firm or a legal service agency. Family Resource Center on Disabilities will not provide any type of services that may be construed as practicing law, including but not limited to giving legal advice, drafting legal documents, or representing families in any type of legal proceeding. Hello, my name is Paula Wills, and you're watching FRCD on CAN TV, where we discuss special education, parent advocacy, and resources for families of children with disabilities. And today, we are discussing effective communication and special education advocacy. This is actually a training we usually give at our center, at Family Resource Center on Disabilities. And today, I'm just going to give you a few snippets of what we covered during this training to help parents effectively communicate with their teachers, administrators, and anyone else who is involved in their child's education. So hopefully we get through all of these today, and we'll jump right into it. So one of the first skills we like to talk about is understanding your child's disability. One of the things we often say is know which services are appropriate for your child. Have expectations that allow your child to reach their potential. Find the right assistive technology and accommodations. Easier said than done. First of all, when we say understand your child's disability, it sounds like a no-brainer, but not always. We don't always understand the ins and outs of our child's disability. So one of the things that we point out at Family Resource Center on Disabilities is that we don't cover one specific disability. We cover disabilities that fall under all disabilities, particularly the, I believe, 14 that fall under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So as a parent, you want to be an expert on your child's disability. For example, your child may have autism or your child may have dyslexia. You don't want to necessarily rely on the school to know that the ins and outs of what's going on with your child. Often in the autism community, they say, if you met one child with autism, you've only met one child with autism. And this can be true for many disabilities. Each child is different. So as a parent of a child with a disability, you really want to know as much about that disability as possible to help the IEP team fully understand what could be going on with your child as they navigate through the special education system. Another thing that we also pointed out is have expectations that allow your child to reach their potential. So, we're not saying that, reach for the moon, and we're not saying, the bare minimum. But you want to have healthy expectations of, what your child could possibly do. And then we also say find the right assistive technology accommodations. Assistive technology is huge. It can make a difference between, your child grasping more information, comprehending more words, whatever the issue may be. So you want to know what's out there, what counts as assistive technology, and is this right for your child? So one of the things that we mentioned is learning about your child's disability. So I have here two websites, one the Early Intervention Clearinghouse and then the Basic Chicago Public Library. These are two excellent websites to go and do some research on your child's disability. So even though this is for early intervention, the Early Intervention Clearinghouse has tons of information about disabilities at various stages, various levels. So I would strongly advise checking them out if you want to learn more about your child's disability. They have a lending library, much like your regular Chicago Public Library. And they will even send materials to your Chicago Public Library or or the library in your community. So for those of you, the Chicago Public Library actually offers a lot of amenities, including searching for books online, requesting books online, and they will even pull the books for you. So there's quite a few resources out here for parents of children with disabilities and even your teachers to research possible things that might be going on with your child and their disability. Another skill that we like to discuss is know the key players. For example, who is the director or decision maker? Are staff people public, nonprofit, or private employees? How can I find a person's name? As a key member of the IEP team, you have a right to ask these questions. You want to know at every level who is making the decision for my child to receive this service. Because you might be shouting at the teacher or you might be angry at the bus attendant, but they're not calling the shots. And not to belittle their job, but they may not have the power to get your child the service that they need. They may not even know that your child needs that service. So you want to find out, who is the head of that school district? Who is the principal? Introduce yourself. Another, as we say, we talk to staff people. You kind of want to work your way up the chain. So, you start off maybe talking to the teacher, talking to the case manager, talking to the principal. You want to know everybody that's involved. And you want them to know you before it escalates to a situation where things may get ugly. So we often suggest that to parents that, maybe go to the school early, introduce yourself to everyone, introduce your child, or show them a picture of your child. This is a great way to let the school know that you're involved and you're eager and working as a key member of that IEP team. Another thing is the school private? Are the staff private or public? How are they funded? These are key things. Even though your child is entitled to that free, appropriate public education no matter what, you still want to know, because sometimes finances do play a key. And it might help you understand the situation, understanding where the money is going and how it flows. And then another one we'd like to point out is, how can you find a person's name? Understand, how do you go, are they on a website? Is there a directory? How can you find out who is doing what, who's involved in what? The administrator, the parent, even the bus attendant. One way is asking, the other thing is a lot of stuff is online now. So you may be able to contact or find the contact information for that superintendent, teacher, or principal right online. Or as always, you can just do it in person, just simply ask. So another skill that we discuss is know your rights and responsibilities. What do we mean by that? Feel free to ask how services are funded. Ask to see laws and policies. One of the things that we talk about, we actually have a training on, is the procedural safeguards that parents receive at their child's IEP meeting, or at least I believe at the beginning of the year. I think it's about a 20-page document. Read through that. It's painful. It is not pleasant. It can be confusing, but read through that, because those are the rights and responsibilities of the parent and the school. It's an invaluable document, and we often encourage families, if you don't understand, call our office. Call Family Resource Center on Disabilities. We can explain it to you. And at the same time, we also we offer trainings on this. We actually offer a webinar that is entitled Procedural Safeguards. So these are laws specific to Illinois, and at the federal level, that's protecting your child in the special education system. Another thing we encourage parents: ask questions. There are no dumb questions. Ask questions. Don't worry about feeling like you should know the answer. You don't. You're talking to experts. You want to understand what they're seeing. You can't engage in a conversation if you don't understand what they're talking about. And if they're using their professional jargon, feel free. Like, I don't understand what that means. Could you explain it in another way? Another thing we also say, as I pointed out earlier, is access Family Resource Center on Disabilities. And one of the websites we talked about visiting is the Illinois State Board of Education website. This website is your friend. There's lots of information on there about special education as it pertains to Illinois. Get familiar with it. A lot of what you don't find, then feel free to ask them, like, if there's something that's missing or you're unclear about. But, you can learn quite a bit from the isb.net. Another website that I encourage families to go to is the IDEA website. This is at the federal level. Well, you will find information about both on the Illinois website. The IDEA website is the IDEA website is for nationwide, every U.S. territory, as it pertains to IDEA. So I encourage families to at least go and at least know where this information is, even if it doesn't make sense. As you said, Rome wasn't built in a day. Understand where the law is. Understand, that you can also, again, come to us and we can go through that. Which, we actually offer training, 6 Principles of IDEA, which goes through IDEA at the federal level and at the state level. So this is something we encourage every parent to take advantage of and get a better understanding of special education. It will help make things a lot easier when you're working with your IEP team. So, the next skill we're talking about is become well organized. Keep records. Put it in writing. Keep a phone log. Make a school email folder in your inbox. Have a meeting notebook. Organization matters. You really want to keep those documents, that correspondence with the school, due dates, notifications. You want to kind of try to keep them together. Your child's records, report cards. Often we get calls at the center where parents are requesting, how do I find my child's records? Oh, this is everywhere. I don't know. We had the conversation. They told me that we didn't write anything down. So this is a common issue, and as I said, like life happens. It doesn't stop because your child has an IEP. Trying to keep up with, emails and notifications and pretty much everything else that goes with his or her homework. Everything that goes with being with school, and that's not including bills and their siblings. So one of the things we often talk about is, keeping a copy of those records. Get in the habit of putting your correspondence in writing. We often say, if it's not written down, it didn't happen. It's just your word against theirs. Often at the center we get phone calls from parents saying, I've been trying to get an IEP for the last year. Did you make a written request? then as far as if the answer is no, then as far as they're concerned, you've never requested an IEP, or you've never requested an evaluation for an IEP. So you want to, at the very least, keep records of of your working with the school. And while we strongly suggest sending a certified letter, particularly if you're trying to get an evaluation or some other matter, you can also use email. I do believe that it is in IDEA that they recognize the certified letter. I don't know if the law's caught up with technology and IDEA yet, but at the very least, follow some of those conversations up with emails. So at the very least, they know that it is documented that you've tried to work with the school, even if the response is no, or if there's no response at all. You want to show that that you are continuously trying to work with the school so that your child can receive their free, appropriate public education. And then we also want to talk about the main one, clear, effective communication. So one of the things we often say is keep your eyes on the prize, the appropriate service for your child. Focus on needs of the child. Problem solve together to find solutions. Time flies by, especially with children. You don't want to spend a year focused on something that a teacher may have said about your child, whether it was taken out of context, or whether, that teacher or administrator was trying to be spiteful. Your goal is that your child is receiving their free, appropriate public education. One of the things is you want to focus on that child's needs. So if it requires more speech, what are the facts? What is the data showing? Forget if they made a comment saying that your child can't learn, okay? We often say, see if they put that in an email. I doubt they ever will put something like that in an email or a letter. So the thing is, you want to focus on acquiring that service, if it is indeed appropriate. And then remember, you're part of a team. It's not just you. They are experts in their field. So give them the opportunity to demonstrate their expertise. And if you disagree, then, we often discuss about how you can disagree if you don't believe their findings are accurate. When you're at that IEP meeting, we say speak clearly. Avoid making people feel defensive. Turn negatives into positives. Summarize. Be open. I mean, it sounds like a no-brainer. Speak clearly, of course. I always speak clearly. But sometimes, things get emotional. They're talking about your child, your flesh and blood in that room. So sometimes it's easier, as I say, it's easier said than done. We often say at Family Resource Center on Disabilities is bring a friend. You spend all this time preparing for this meeting, and then you're sitting at a table with, 12 additional professionals, and it's just you talking about your child. So it may not go as smoothly as you think, especially if it's your first IEP meeting or you disagree with the rest of the team. When you do disagree with the rest of the team, don't put them on the defensive, because as soon as you put them on the defensive, it's no longer about your child. For example, you just don't know how to teach. I guarantee you, if you say that to a teacher, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to be focused on defending their credentials, not your child. So we strongly recommend, instead of saying you can't teach, what do you suggest? Is there some research that maybe we can look at to further investigate what's going on with Jane or Jimmy? There's a number of ways that we could approach that, but we definitely don't want to approach that with accusations and attacking that teacher or administrator's credentials. Even if they've demonstrated that they may not fully understand your child's disability or the situation at hand. You want to avoid putting people on the defensive. There's definitely far more effective ways to go after what you want, because as soon as you make it about them, that's what it's going to stay on, about them defending themselves, and your child is lost in that not totally, but in that situation. And then then another thing we say is turn negatives into positives. So if they're going down a laundry list of things, he keeps throwing paper. He goes in the teacher's desk. He didn't finish his assignments. I mean, one way you approach it. Okay, he's curious. How can we appropriately channel that curiosity into a meaningful way to help him learn? There's a number of ways you can approach that, and put it back on the school to help him manage his behavior so that he or she can achieve their free, appropriate public education, because it's about the child. It's about your child and their ability and preparing them for the future. And then the other thing we also point out is summarize. Once that meeting is over, go through a list of everything you talked about, your concerns, just to confirm. And then you want to make sure that information either goes in the IEP, or if you don't want to confirm it there because it may have been a little bit emotional, put it in an email. Gives them an opportunity. If you misunderstood something, right there in that email or in that written communication, they can clarify it. And then number 6, know how to resolve disagreements. We say, talk to people first. Talk to people who make decisions. Write a letter to key decision makers and set up informal meetings with you and key school staff. So yeah, informally, before it gets to the point where we have to, people are calling lawyers and stuff, sometimes things can be resolved with a conversation. Maybe the teacher was having a bad day. Maybe the administrator was having a bad day. Maybe they're not the one who can get your child the service that they need. So that's when it's helpful to have that conversation and then work your way up the chain. The teacher, then the principal, then the superintendent. So you wanna find the most effective way to resolve the disagreement and not spin your child's wheels, and keep things moving forward. Because as I said, time flies, especially while they're in school. You don't want to waste precious months, trying to, get a service. Meanwhile, everything else is falling apart. Because they only have your child for a year. And then after that, it's on to the next group. Not to be callous, but that's the reality. Once your child graduates, they're with another teacher. So you want to maximize their time and be as effective as possible with their learning. And then we have the formal disagreements. Mediation, complaints, appeals, due process. So that's when things start getting more serious. I will say for due process and mediation, and most complaints, Family Resource Center on Disabilities cannot get involved because we are not attorneys. However, up until that point, we can certainly help families with writing letters. So the parents writing a letter, we might look at it for you. We also say, don't write a letter and send it when you're angry. Write the letter, step away, come back, reread the letter. Is it still hostile? Is it not hostile enough? Are you missing information? Is it too much information? So I strongly advise you to, contact Family Resource Center on Disabilities and visit one of our trainings. Learn about your special education rights. So as we come down to our last couple of seconds, I want to thank you for joining us today here at FRCD on CAN TV, and I hope you have a wonderful week.